right.
So we think we're live. We typically try to share, get a little traffic going. We may, what do we have, 15 or 20 or 30 people listening at it or watching live at any one time?
Yeah.
So we'll get some live questions on here as well. Sometimes. Normally they're just making fun of what I'm wearing more than anything else. It's just, it's Michael Bell in California picking on me.
Yep.
Rex's oldest son. I don't know if I can find a link to share right now or not, though. It's not, there it is.
Your mom has already liked the video.
And his dad's watching too.
I got my whole family going, huh?
Dear God, please don't let my mom get on there.
Well, I mean, if your mother's not supportive of you.
Yeah. Are you embarrassed of us?
Quite the opposite. The day my mom got Facebook was one of the worst days of my life.
Yeah. I have no comment. I have no comment on that one.
Because your mom was watching?
Yeah. Hi, Mom. And my dad.
Paul,
what time do we start this thing? We start it now, Dad. My girlfriend's mom is watching. Basically, it's my family watching right now.
Basically,
so we welcome them all.
Get in here and we just start talking, and then we lose track of time. And then we're like, oh, man, it's 7:15. We should really start this thing now. We told our guests that we would start at 7, and he'd be out of here by 9 o'clock.
I tell people in the 7 o'clock hour is what I promise people at this point.
Since it's been on Facebook, it has been getting later and later.
Yep. And Jeremiah's the one that ruins it.
Is everybody ready?
Ready.
You're done throwing.
Are you? Did you press record?
The most important thing is for me to check to make sure that the card is in it. We had a tragic incident a couple weeks ago.
Brantley says your family plus me.
Is it over yet? We're just getting started, Mike. We're just getting started now. All right. Everybody ready?
We're ready.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast on the We Are Libertarians Network. I'm your host, Jeremiah Morrell. As always, I'm joined by our co-host, Dakota Davis, and our other co-host, Clay Morgan. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey.
What's up?
Our show is about our lives in rural Indiana. It's a show about folks who are interested in politics. We promise that our episodes are going to be a fun and easy listen. This one's about taxes, but I still promise it's going to be fun and an easy listen. We interview folks who are influencers, elected officials, political experts, and people that we just find interesting. Today's guest is going to be Justin Stevens of Americans for Prosperity. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks for having me. Which one of those groups do I fit under?
Oh, man. All of them, I think. Have you been elected to anything yet?
No, I haven't.
You said you're in the club I am. You failed an election.
I ran and failed. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out.
Hey, I failed twice. So Clay's even failed. He finally did get elected. He's got one of them government positions now, collecting that big $6,000 a year or whatever he gets off the Henry County Council.
Exactly.
But
no. It's double that.
It is. It is almost.
Yeah.
9,700.
That was some of the drama whenever they were discussing the raises for the city council. Was I forget which councilman it was, but they said, well, the county council meets half as regular as what we do, and they make double. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, but they're also the county versus the city.
We do half the work and double the pay.
Good work if you can get it.
That's right. That's right.
I tried. The voters rejected me. So I think you get, Justin, the record for driving the furthest to do an episode so far. You came from darn near Louisville this afternoon.
I did. Yeah, Southern Indiana, exit 29 on I-65.
That's the picturesque water tower there and the little curve on 65.
We have 3
right?
water towers and 6,000 people. We're pretty proud of that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's impressive.
There's a lot of water.
Man.
You have good flow, though, right?
That's right.
You open up the sink, and you have to have like this. You have to have like a special reinforced, like vanity top. Does it just come out?
It's good, man. It's good.
That's
I'm
awesome.
proud of it.
I bet you can have some really luxury shower heads in that town.
Everybody has a free complimentary pressure washer. Just put your hose on and take the paint off your Ford.
There's a fire hydrant in front of each house as you go down the street.
So typically what we do on the show is the first 10, 15, 20 minutes or so is banter, because apparently people like that.
Yes.
They want to hear us joking with each other and having a good old time.
Unless you're Darren Jacobs. He says, what part of the show is the funny banter?
He's still looking for it.
He's looking for it, yeah.
Darren also just said to our two of our previous guests, the local paper, the Courier Times here, Kevin Green was in your chair last week as we were setting up. Kevin's microphone was about a foot taller than it is set up for now for Justin. And Darren said that he only reads the Courier Times for Kevin Green articles, not Travis Wyke articles. That's the entire reason why he buys the paper,
and
just to read his.
Being the self-promoter that you have taught me to be,
you're welcome.
I said that Courier Times is, or the Brisket Gazette, whatever you want to call it. Just depends on if we have Kevin or Travis, I guess. But is the official newspaper of Boss Hog of Liberty. Although,
yeah, you got to be careful.
Although,
some of us subscribe to the Knightstown Banner and the Middletown Times.
The Middletown Times is a really good newspaper, covering news in Henry County. You gave me that one paper, and I'm pretty much convinced that I need to get it.
You do. Yeah. Today's arrived. This week's Middletown paper arrived today, and Eldon Pitts decided to mention that I quit the park board again. So every time I turn around, I see my name printed, and it's just me resigning in shame now. So that's the way it goes. Anyway, so Dakota and I spent some time together last week. The previous week, we avoided each other. We were feuding. I didn't know why, but Dakota never told me why he was mad at me, but we never hung out. So
I think Dakota went through kind of a depression for the past couple of weeks.
He may have.
I think so.
Separation.
I think so. Well, he's getting married, and I don't know. Some things are happening.
These are stressful times for me, Clay.
But I can tell tonight he looks good. He's glowing. His hair looks good.
He's got that fresh haircut.
Well, see, I tried a new hairstyle in case anybody noticed. I kind of poofed it up a little bit.
Maybe I'll get that tomorrow.
I'm really tired of looking like a midget in all these pictures that we post. I'm like, it's been like the last 3 or 4 episodes. Every person that you bring on, every person that Jeremiah schedules as a guest,
you got to be 6'3" or taller to get on the show.
Yeah, I feel like I'm standing next to Yao Ming, and every time they walk in the door, it's like they have to duck, like all these people.
And you have tall ceilings.
Yeah, I have 9-foot ceilings in this house.
Well,
so
got your hair going though.
Yep.
Enjoy the hair while you can.
That's gonna jump up.
Someday you may not have it.
Yeah, my dad's bald as well, but they say it comes from your mom's father, and my grandpa had a full, thick head of hair until the day he died. So
I don't believe
it's a shame that he died at
at
22. It was,
and I
66.
I need to thank Boss Hog of Liberty for helping me, give me an avenue to get Dakota's dad back in the shop.
That's right. We found a path.
Yeah.
I heard he was a paying customer today.
He's been back like 3 times since it was mentioned.
He heard he listened to that episode and said, Clay's talking about giving me a free haircut.
He's still waiting on
it. Waiting on it, yeah.
Well, he came in today and asked if I was going to pay for his, and I said I only pay for people on the weekly plan.
Man. It's a subsidy. It's a subsidized haircut.
And he is very upset that he's not invited to the bachelor party, by the way, Jeremiah.
We'll get into that in a minute. Your bachelor party, we conveniently, I talked about this when I popped into the barbershop today to try to catch one of Clay's guests, and I just missed him. But I was telling Clay this story when I was in there. We're leaving tomorrow to go to Nashville, Tennessee for Dakota's bachelor party because the wedding is just 2 weeks away.
Okay,
that's why he's in a better mood.
And one of the groomsmen lived in Florida. One of the best man lived in Alabama, and then Dakota and I were coming from here. So halfway was Nashville, so it was going to be more convenient for everybody. The best man moved to North Dakota.
Yeah. Trevor got a job. He's like breaking down heavy machinery, and he's a big listener to the show. And he's like, well, I'm in North Dakota, and it's going to cost me like $450 for a round trip.
So he bailed out on us. And then one of the other groomsmen moved back here. So then we tapped in the guy that I wound up replacing as a groomsman. Yeah. And he came back from the service overseas, and he's back.
Quentin was stationed in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And he has to go back to Texas on November 13th.
Right. But he'll be back in town for this. So
yes.
And we were going to do this thing conveniently in Nashville, Tennessee. Paid for it, booked it, it's scheduled, and now every one of us are leaving from my driveway tomorrow and driving to the convenient location that's 6 hours away. So we got that going for us. But I'm really excited. I'm
I
looking
am
forward to it.
really looking forward to it. But yeah, Dad is very upset. He was like, I cannot believe that you didn't invite me.
Is that what he was crying about?
I think so. And then he said, you know, you didn't invite me, and then whenever one of your groomsmen couldn't make it and you were looking for somebody to fill the
still
spot.
Didn't invite
Yeah, you still didn't invite me.
Ouch.
I'm like, well, you know, I pawned it off on Jeremiah, and I was like, well, Jeremiah's been planning all of it, so I don't really have a say.
I feel bad for him. He's a nice guy, too.
Oh, my dad is a nice guy. I'm
He's
not saying
Let him know
that.
you can go to the next one.
Super guy.
Yeah,
Poor
Isaac
guy.
just said, why was he not invited, though?
Poor guy.
You know, I really don't have an answer for that.
Were you invited to his first one? To his?
Yeah, I wasn't invited to my dad's
Right.
bachelor party. What the heck was up with
Not
that?
really a father and son affair, per se. So, oh, well. Anyway, we're looking forward to that.
But, you know, we thought about it, and I was like, you know, if he went, he probably would have paid for a lot of our drinks.
Well, he can go. I mean, if he wants to.
Now that you've said that.
Yeah. It's I'm the old guy. I'm so much the old guy for this. Dakota's 21. I'm well over 30, and the other two are 21 and 22 years old.
I
Right.
like to joke with Jeremiah and remind him periodically that he is closer to my dad's age than what he is to mine.
Ouch. Yeah.
Well, I just found
Clay
out
is-
last week, he said his dad graduated in 92. I graduated
Wow.
in 93.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Justin, what year did you graduate high school?
2001.
See, we're the same.
Yeah.
There you
Okay.
go.
Yeah,
All right.
2001. So I'm
There you
30. I'm 34.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
So although today's my baby brother's birthday.
I saw that.
He turned 31 today. I've been somewhat abusive to him over the last day or so, talking about how.
Yeah, you always talk about how you still have more hair than him.
Well, it's not that I have the hair, but it's also not turned the color that his is turned.
I
He
would
always
say
talks
gray
so
hair.
nice about you, too. though.
I know. He's
In the
very nice
barber
to me.
shop, he does. He really, really talks super about you.
I know. I talk great about him too.
He loves you.
We can't pick at each other a little bit. Just a
So
touch.
we did hang out this weekend.
We did. So
after
Friday
our
we did.
hiatus.
Friday I took the day off, being the great friend that I am, and I came over here, and basically I said, "Let me be a day laborer for you, Dakota."
Yep, he did. He was my slave labor for the day, and you were painting with oil-based stain blocker paint.
You offered me two jobs. You
Yep.
said I could help paint the laundry room, and I've been slimming down. Okay, I'm down like
Yep.
26 pounds since the end of August, but there's still a lot of me left. And he offered to let me paint this space that's about 14 inches wide between the bathroom wall and the washing machine. And I was like,
Well, there's
"What's
other
off?"
space than that in there.
Well, that was the space I saw, and I said, "There's no way in hell we're making that one work." What's behind door number 2? And it was paint the ceilings. I said, "I can do that."
Oh, yeah.
So Dakota's got the 9-foot ceilings, so I went in and painted above his kitchen. He had a small plumbing disaster, and it left a little brown spot in the ceiling.
Just a small, horrible disaster.
So I painted that, and then this upstairs bathroom. He had the bathroom fan went out for 1 to 2 years. I don't know how long it took to get that much mold and mildew on your ceiling, but
2 weeks. Yeah, you don't realize how much work those fans do.
do you leave your shower on 24/7?
No,
To
but
create that much mildew?
I do take very long showers. I will say that. I'd take like 20-minute showers. I thoroughly wash myself. I'm very big on personal hygiene in the Davis
Good
household.
to know. Good to know.
You were talking in our group chat one day. I think it was you. Somebody was like, "Yeah, all guys just use the 3-in-1: hair, body, and face." And I'm like,
That was not me.
I'm like,
That's not me.
I have shampoo.
You have a lot of products.
I have shampoo, conditioner. I have 2 different types of body wash, depending on what day it is. And then I have
I don't even know what that means.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, I use the pink bottle.
I have
not sure what that
I
means.
have a foot scrubber because I get really calloused feet.
Well, we're
because of my
learning a
job.
lot tonight.
And then
we
I
are.
and then I also have 2 different types of face
I
wash.
promised that this would be fun and entertaining for a tax episode.
I have 2 different types of face wash. One is like a charcoal stuff made by Lush Cosmetics, and then the second kind is just a regular soap that I put on a sponge and washed my face with it.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is any comments popping up on this? Man.
No.
I think the comments are broken, or everybody's just shocked at this point.
They're awe.
Jumping out, going, "What in the hell?" I have a bar of soap and Garnier Fructis, and that's it. And
I've always been that way.
Mike Broyles wants to stop you right now. This is
I mean, that's just the way it is.
Audrey's marrying you no matter what. She knows. I'm sure she's fully up to speed.
That's how you attract the ladies. You have to smell good, be clean, all the time. Like I'm just
times.
really big on any I do not want to smell bad. No.
Well, Dakota does not have a life as an over-the-road truck driver coming at any point.
Not at all. I hate like being filthy, dirty, and smelly bad. And I worked as a construction worker for almost 3 years. You would think that it would be different.
Nearly a lifetime.
But that's what got me there. I was very anal about my workspace, my work cart. I had a little broom that I would carry around with me, and I would periodically sweep off my cart and clean my workspace before I worked and after I worked. Everywhere I went, I left a trail because it was very clean where I went.
So how did you come over and paint and work with the guy that,
I worked on the different floor. So I worked upstairs and he was downstairs. But this paint, going back to the painting story, I ruined a shirt. There was droplets of white Kills paint coming off the ceiling, and I was covered everywhere. It was bad. I put tarp down. We put tarps down on this floor, but it was miserable. I was covered in paint Friday night, Saturday. I had a wedding Saturday, and I was just. I luckily I've got new skin now, so it's all gone because I also used the scrubber on myself. Just some sandpaper and toughed it out like a real man. I didn't use the charcoal loofah that Dakota would have.
You had paint all over.
It was everywhere.
You had a pretty nice Wrangler button-down shirt on too.
Yeah, it was a work shirt,
and there was just
it's a speckled shirt.
Yeah,
now.
It was totally speckled, and your face, your hair.
Yeah, oh yeah,
it was everywhere.
Well, I hope it was well ventilated.
No, I got
because
high.
I had a really bad experience one time with Kills.
We kept the windows open.
Yeah, you have to be careful with that stuff.
I didn't pass out.
So
I finally finished my laundry room. The laundry room.
It's all done?
Yes. The laundry room that I have been working on
since we met
since I was
2 years ago?
18 years old. It's finally done. I had the washer and dryer for a full year just sitting in the boxes in the dining room, and they turned into this catch-all shelf. We just put stuff on top of them that didn't have any other good place to go.
They just became a permanent fixture in there.
Yep. And then Trevor came up, and he's a plumber, so I was like, "Hey man, I really want to hang out with you." And he's like, "Okay." I said, "Come on over." And then he came over, and I'm like,
you tricked him into the day and I were doing the laundry room.
All right.
He helped us with the plumbing.
Let's get this plumbing done, son.
It worked out. And you haven't had any backups yet. It's actually been nice, right?
Yeah, it has been nice. And you are a shirt destroyer.
I am.
We found out.
Yeah,
you got the speckles on the one.
I in the last 2 weeks, this is long sleeve flannel season. I've destroyed. I got the paint on the one, and then I ripped 3 long sleeve flannel shirts.
Wow.
Successfully.
Takes skill.
One with dear leader Chris Spangle. We were loading him in my boat to do a photo shoot on the way down to southern Indiana. Sarah and I, and Chris, you'll see if you look at the We're Libertarians or Chris's Snapchat or Facebook. He took some pictures riding around his apartment complex. We left a car there. I ripped the side of the shirt, putting him in there. I got another one at my parents' house last weekend. They booby trapped the place and had a uncovered thermostat filter, and I screamed loudly at that one, just pissed off at the world. And then Dakota also did the same thing the day I came over and volunteered for him. I put another shirt on. I'd come back over.
He put his nice shirt on, the one that
we were going to dinner.
Yeah,
and I had another decent flannel shirt. And I found that Dakota had some trim that was ripped off in the front door that she came through. Luckily, I tested it for you.
Thanks a lot.
The trim was gone, and he had a little trim screw hanging out, and I caught it just in the right spot to rip the side of that shirt off. So 4 shirts in a week and a half.
I'm like, I've been living in this house for what? 2.5 years?
You're another
3 years?
You're about 12 to 18 inches narrower than I am. You don't need a full 36-inch doorway.
That nail was from the trim.
Yeah.
And this house was built in 1914.
I think it's been retrimmed.
I think that for the past 103 years, people have been walking in and out that doorway and have never taken that nail out. And you just happen to catch it. I just removed a piece of history because you ripped your shirt on a nail.
I'm really surprised the county even allowed you to take possession of this place with those sorts of dangers.
At this place, at this spot in 2017, Jeremiah Morrell ripped his shirt on a nail protruding from the door.
Your mother is interjecting.
Yes, she is.
She says Dakota's dad, who is not going to the bachelor party, bought the washer and dryer. Just saying.
Yes, it was a wedding gift, though.
Wow.
It wasn't a bachelor party gift.
This is the risk of having your mother on Facebook.
I got really nervous there when you said your mother's on. I thought you were talking about mine. I was so scared. So scared.
You can text her. Hey, Mom, I'm on the internet.
No way. They go to bed at 8. So
Live.
I guess they got a few minutes here.
Yeah.
Man, it's Survivor night, though.
Yeah.
So let's see.
Not for them.
We mentioned dinner, but it wasn't just dinner.
We had a libertarian meeting. So I am the state central committee member for the Libertarian Party in the 6th district. So as different groups are trying to organize, or we have area meetings, I try to get to those and support them. So Dakota, being our county chair and good friend, he and his fiance and the lovely Sarah Potter and I drove up to.
Audrey did not want to go
against it. Yeah, she was against it from the beginning. But we went to Three Wise Men and met with the Delaware County Libertarian group, and the y'all, the Young Americans for Liberty from Ball State, were there and had a good time getting to know those guys. And they were actually entertaining some sort of football team, so we had to eat dinner or drinks in the hotel lobby at the Marriott downtown Muncie. But the people there were great, and it was a good event. But so we get to hang out quite a bit that weekend.
Yeah,
and then we each went to separate weddings.
Time.
You had a wedding to go to, and I had a wedding.
Yeah, except yours was Saturday, mine was Sunday.
It's true. That's why we couldn't see each other all weekend.
Yep.
Other than Friday.
So who got married that you know?
It was Sarah friends. Sarah's is one of those you don't know the people going in. It was very cold. I know that. It was an outdoor wedding, and it was about 37 degrees. I felt very sorry for the bride.
Physically cold.
Very,
not cold shoulder.
No.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Right.
No,
right.
It was a very warm reception.
No, ours was also outside. It was at the Avon Gardens, which was like really nice.
Yeah.
Like, incredible. And is my cousin Josh, so I actually knew the people.
Well, that's an advantage.
Yep. So my cousin Josh and then his longtime boyfriend / fiance Scott finally got married, and just wanted to say congratulations to both of them, because Josh and Scott are both super good people, and I probably will see them on Sunday, but we will see. It just depends on how well the bachelor party goes. If it's a really good bachelor party, I probably won't see them.
Are they honeymooning down in Nashville?
No.
Or it's when we get back.
Yeah, it'll be when we get back. They're on their honeymoon now.
Right. I don't know how long those things go. You're darn near leaving the country. You're going for like a week and a half.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. I mean, going to Hawaii, and we're going to be gone for only 1 week, not a week and a half.
Anyway,
it'll be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
So we do want to thank Brantley Spicer, by the way, who's watching us. He was very generous and helped kick in on some of the expenses here on the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. You rolled out a new logo for us this week. I know you had to pay a little bit for the source of that, and there's always little expenses coming along, so we appreciate him kicking in and helping out.
How much, and this isn't just like a free thing that we put on. Like, this costs us monthly to do.
Yes. And there are web hosting costs for We Libertarians that they take care of for us, and then we are constantly nickel and diming ourselves buying supplies and continuing to pick at it and buy new cables, and it's just it's a nonstop thing.
Our Facebook promotions and
yes,
yeah. I mean, I know I promote the YouTube video every week, and that just takes money. So
and
it's
that's
awesome.
like $500 a week. It's pretty significant.
It is not that much. It's more like $5 a week, but still, like that's $5 more a week, and so that's just a huge, awesome thank you.
Yes,
to
very
Mr.
much.
Spicer.
Thank you to him and everybody that's given over the course of the show. This is 28 episodes in. It's amazing that we've had as much support as we have, and people listen, and we have people like Justin that are driving all the way up from southern Indiana to join us. It's exciting.
Glad to be
Elected
here.
officials, people who are running for office, national offices. I'm super impressed and really proud of everything that we've done here.
And we have to thank our wives, because I bet your wife is thrilled that you
So
get
excited.
to drive this far
She
tonight.
was so excited she could barely contain herself.
Yeah,
Your wife saw you for what, 10 minutes?
She
this
saw me
evening?
for about 10 minutes, yeah.
Well,
She
I've got-
forgot it was podcast night. And
Oh.
when I told her, I got the look, and then she was all sweet again and
Yeah.
kissed me and waved goodbye. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's right. Well, we have 4 kids, 7 and under.
Yep.
And so
Oh, I hear you.
it's they're getting ready for bed right now.
Yes.
And the nights that I'm away, which
Yes.
fairly frequent,
With
I
work
have
your
to be
bulb in.
super nice tomorrow.
Sure. Exactly.
Super nice.
So let's get into it a little bit, Justin, with your with what you do and what you're doing here. You work for Americans for Prosperity,
That's right.
which is as far as I know, a national organization.
Correct.
And it's funded. You have a sugar daddy of sorts, or
You could say that. I mean,
yeah.
most people know that
Right.
that one of the people that began the organization and some of our major funders are David and Charles Koch. I mean,
former Libertarian vice presidential nominee.
that's right. Yeah, but it goes so far beyond that.
Of course.
I mean, they are a small fraction of, as far as our expenditures, they're a small fraction of that, because they believe that if the market demands an organization like ours, that the market will also help fund an organization like ours.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so they will not fund to a really far extent, because
Yeah.
they want to make sure that it's something that the market is
The,
wanting.
The Koch brothers have stirred a little bit of controversy just north of here with their new economics facility at the Ball State campus.
Sure. Yeah.
I know, like, being my age, being 21 years old, a young millennial, and the current political climate,
With
a lot
that
of
haircut.
with my haircut, a lot of my friends, like people who I grew up with, know very well, have gone off to college and have fallen into this trap that we've seen
Right.
time and time again. We see it all over the news, everything of ultra liberalism,
Right.
and it's spreading like wildfire on campuses. And I understand it, because everybody wants to make a difference. Everybody wants to bring about change, and whenever people start realizing and things become the most popular way to enact change, but not necessarily the right way, it has a tendency to catch on.
Right.
And that's what we've seen happen. And because of that, places and people like the Koch brothers have definitely caught a bunch of fire and a bunch of whiplash from things like this.
We have to be, engaging in those areas, though. First of all, I'll say, Charles Koch is in his early 80s.
Yeah.
And he is a multi-billionaire. He
Right.
could sit back and just enjoy his life and eat bonbons and lay on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, which I
but-
hope
but
to
he
be
is-
doing.
But he's devoted his life to promoting a free and open society, limited government, and more individual freedom for each of us. So I admire him for that. And speaking of engagement on college campuses, we're in the middle of a college tour. We have a brand called Generation Opportunity, and we work with them a lot. And we're doing. We actually did an event, or we're doing one at Ball State.
Yeah,
But
that's what I was about to bring up.
okay,
I saw
yeah.
I did some research on your organization before the show started,
Yeah.
like while I was writing show notes and everything, and I guess I didn't know just how big of an organization you guys really are. Like 3,200,000 members nationwide.
Yeah.
Not
We have
just
36 state chapters. Yeah, I mean here in Indiana we have 3 field offices, 4 offices altogether. We just added another staff member that starts next Monday. We have full-time staff, so we have an infrastructure that's built up much like a political party, but
Yep.
we are year-round. We don't go with the ebb and flow of campaigns. We
Yep.
have a grassroots infrastructure where we can be engaged on any given issue. Right now, our main issue is tax reform. We get into that later, but we can get engaged on any particular issue like that because we have a built-in infrastructure of not only staff, but a huge group of volunteers across the state of Indiana who are interested in these issues. Last month in October was our greatest month from a grassroots standpoint in the history of our state chapter. And we've had people engaged across the state when it comes to trying to get tax reform done for the first time in 3 decades. But yeah, we're proud of that. We think that there is a market demand for what we're doing. We think that
Absolutely.
there's a great opportunity for us to engage citizens, to make them aware of what's going on at the local, state, and federal level, and then getting them engaged and active. One of the saddest stories I heard was I love Waffle House. I love going to Waffle House at like 11:30 at night, and
So does Kid Rock.
yeah,
except
I don't-
It's about 1
I
a.m.
don't do that much anymore now
Remember when he got
that I
fired?
got
Yeah.
kids. But the waiter there, this is before the 2016 election, and I asked him, I said, "Are you going to vote?" And just curious what he would say, and I like talking to people. And he said, "No, my high school teacher told me that it didn't matter anyways. They're all crooked. It doesn't matter what you do. They're all crooked." And I asked him who the teacher was, and it was his high school civics teacher that told him that voting was worthless.
Just a little bit jaded, huh?
That is unbelievable, So I think that we live in the greatest country on the face of the planet. We get bogged down by some of the national news and some of the stories that come out, and especially in our political arena at this point in time in our history. But the bottom line is, we live in the greatest country that's ever existed, and we need to protect it. And we need to make sure that the next generation has the same ability that we have to enjoy the American dream. And that's what I want our organization in Indiana to be about, is making sure that we're giving people as many individual rights. And that comes through regulation. It comes through, things down on the local level. It comes through taxation and all that. But giving people the most control over their life that they possibly can, so that they can pursue prosperity in the way that they see fit. That's not what you and I deem
Right.
It's an individual choice. It's
Right.
not the government. You're trying to
Exactly.
remove the government and create
Yeah,
opportunity.
and
for
see,
people to
that
make
was one of
decisions.
the biggest things that I liked about your organization. See, I always, I think that Jeremiah and I both always describe ourselves as pragmatic libertarians, and you aren't affiliated technically or officially with a political party.
No, we're not.
You
You do
tackle
issue advocacy,
issues,
correct?
yeah, and you advocate for what you believe is right.
Right.
And you see, so many times I look at these libertarian groups and I get inside of groups on Facebook, and it's just like, it seems like it gets infiltrated with anarchists and people who think that libertarianism is associated with anarchy and not so much just a philosophy. And your group seemed to recognize libertarianism as a philosophy, as a way of living, not just a political stance or a political party.
Right.
And I really liked that, and I have a lot of respect for that.
Well, thank you. And I think a lot of people will see us and they'll think, well, this is just an arm of the Republican Party. I can tell you that it's not. Yeah, I think some of the issues.
You find yourself on the opposite side.
Some of the
issues
issues that we're going to talk about tonight are issues that we've found ourselves on the opposite side of one or one particular party over another. And I'll just say that when I go to sleep at night, I lay my head on the pillow. I go to sleep quickly, and I sleep well, because I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in the policies that we stand for and the way that we promote those policies.
So you first made my radar. You don't know this, but the first time you made my radar was probably earlier this spring.
Okay.
And I think you were a guest on Rob Kendall's show,
Yeah.
Central Indiana Today,
Right,
at
yeah.
the time before he got the big promotion and joined Emmis, and he's got the chicks on the right that he's guiding.
Yeah, Rob,
guiding to
you
prosperity.
haven't asked me back since then. What's going on?
He's got the
man?
big Sunday show now on the big.
He went big time. He
93.1.
left me behind. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have
to
you
make
here.
that happen.
Rob, he watches the Boss Hog of Liberty.
I
know
figured he might
checks
be,
in,
so yeah.
we'll put a good word in for you and see what we can do. Get you on the 50,000 watt station.
Thanks a lot.
So we are not limited by terrestrial radio here, though,
Yeah,
of course.
no.
we can go anywhere. We have listeners all
He's
over
like
the world.
a caveman.
People take
I
us
mean,
on
he's
vacation.
only getting people in Indy, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
He's a caveman.
He's, you can't get him past Seymour. Come on. Anyway, so you were kind of playing devil's advocate or trying to pump the brakes a little bit on what came through the Indiana General Assembly this year, which was a new funding mechanism. So basically, it wound up being user fees and increased gas tax.
Yep. One of the 271 new laws that were signed into effect by Governor Holcomb and your supposedly smaller government Republican legislature.
So we'll just deal with one of them for now.
Wow.
Yeah. Governor Holcomb, I think you're fine, actually. I'm generally surprisingly impressed. It's been cool. I like the governor for now. We're only a year in, but he's been good. So this is coming from the guy that was Rex Bell's campaign manager. All three guys were very, very nice, and I knew we were going to be in good hands no matter which one of the three went. However, I was really pulling for Rex. The gas tax hadn't changed in a very long time in Indiana. I think it was like
2002.
Yeah, 2002, and then federally, I don't think it's changed since '93.
It's been about 24 years. Yeah, '93. Yep.
So, was it not the appropriate thing to do to go in and make adjustments to the gas tax, or were there other areas that you were concerned about? What was the, because we know that roads need to be built and funded, and you go down the line, and as libertarians, we kind of look at things and say consumption taxes are the most fair taxes.
Right.
So on the surface, that's where I see it. So I guess try to help understand what the opposition is.
So, and I would agree. There are a lot of things that government is doing that it shouldn't be doing.
Sure.
Roads is one that it should be doing. So, and I think our argument got misconstrued frequently, and it's still continuing to be misconstrued because I did not say that the gas tax should not be increased, but I asked them to consider a few things before they did that. I think that I think if we're going to agree on anything, we have to start with the basic assumption that a dollar earned by an individual in the state belongs to that individual. It doesn't belong to the government, right? So the government should only take as much as they have to in order to provide basic necessities and services.
Correct.
So that's my basic premise and the lens that I'm viewing this through. So if we don't agree with that, then we're probably not going to agree on anything that I say from this point on. But there are a few things that I asked them to consider before they raised the gas tax. One was, if we truly want it to be where you are paying for the services directly tied to the consumption, then we should shift all the gasoline sales tax over to roads immediately. And that would have been about $300 million. They were asking for $1.2 billion. I'll get to that here in a minute. But they were asking for $1.2 billion. That would have immediately shifted about $300 million over to roads on an annual basis. Right. To put this in perspective, okay, in the 2017 fiscal year budget, we were spending about $2.3 billion on transportation. About $1 billion of that came from the feds.
Correct.
Okay. The other 1.2 to 1.3 billion came from state revenue. Okay. Very little of that came from the general fund. But here's my thing. First of all, let's really tie it to the consumption. So let's take all of that gasoline sales tax and put it towards roads immediately.
They've continued to make improvements in that over time, but it was paying for state police pensions. There were a lot of different divergent ways that that money was not making it into the construction fund.
Guys, I mean, I should have started out by saying this. When we look at the size of Indiana's state government, and when we look at the way that we are taxed as citizens in Indiana, there are a lot of states that are much worse than we are. So I want to start out by saying that it's very important to understand we have promoted very good policies, especially in the last 10 years or so.
Certainly.
I want to give credit where credit is due, and we spent a lot of time promoting those things. In 2016, we spent 3 or 4 months out beating on doors, telling people about the tax cuts of 2013 and school choice and how we've expanded vouchers and all these things. So I want to make sure that we're not, because we disagree in one area, does not mean that I don't also see all the good that's been done over the last 10 years or so. So I want to say that. So getting back to the gas tax, I think we should have shifted the gasoline sales tax over immediately. The next thing that we should have considered was because the response to that is, well, where are we going to find $300 million in the budget to cut? We're going to have to cut from teachers. We're going to, because 60% of the state budget is education.
It's education before you go anywhere else.
So we're going to have to cut teachers if we cut, or if we take that $300 million out of the general fund. It's a false argument because of this. They base their budgets off of projections for the next 2 years, right? The budget projections had a $1 billion increase in revenue over the budget that they were crafting. So to say that they would have to cut is misleading, because they actually were going to be receiving $1 billion more in revenue over the following 2 years. So I asked them to consider those two things, and beyond that, the last point I think is very, very important, and it was not talked about much at all in the state legislature. What is the actual need? So,
right,
if you're saying we need $1.2 billion a year when our current expenditures are somewhere around 2.2 or 2.3 billion, so you're talking about a 50%, almost 50% increase in transportation funding. Tell me where the need is. Explain to me what those projects are and why we need 1.2 billion. And then maybe we can talk. But that totally was not part of the argument. I tried to bring it up several times.
Right.
But
Yeah,
even when I'm talking one-on-one to legislators, that was not part of the conversation.
I think
was that need actually there?
In the long-term plans, I think we've heard discussion that I-65 needs to be 3 lanes, from River to Chicago, and I-70 needs to be 3 lanes from Illinois to Ohio for safety. I know I drive. I'm a traveling salesman, so I'm all over Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Michigan on a pretty consistent basis. And 65 and 70 are so heavily traveled, and at some point those need to be 3-lane roads. They are. 65 is in Kentucky, and in Ohio 70 is, and you just. For safety alone. I know we need to get there.
But
finding a way to pay for it is
and
if that discussion.
And if that was the case. Or I'm not saying it's not. If that being the case, it would have been nice maybe if they would have said, "This is why." Right? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Well,
like if they would have brought those up as the point.
Well, I think that's why the tolling is coming along.
That was included in the $1.2 billion figure, but also included in this bill was the tolling.
And see, that's what Rex Bell. Like, during his entire campaign, that's what he always said. And I believe he said it on the debate stage at one point, was once we use all of the road tax funds for the roads,
then we can
talk about the rest. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was a great starting point. The original bill that came out at the beginning of the session from the House had all of the gasoline sales tax being shifted to roads immediately. Now it does shift it. I will say, in the final bill, it did shift it over a period of years.
That's what I was going to ask you about, because I knew in my initial look at all the two different aspects of all this, the House bill seemed like the more quality, more tax-friendly, more citizen-friendly.
It got worse as session went on.
The Senate,
it started well. It seemed like.
And I'll have you guys know that I sent an email to Gene Leasing.
Gene Leasing, our state senator here.
Yeah.
In our,
is that Leasing or
Leasing?
Okay, Leasing. So I sent an email to Gene Leasing, and she did.
Yeah, she did.
So
she was one of 5 senators that voted against it.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but
my state
I'm pulling some strings over here.
I think it was because of you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's what she told me.
Oh, okay. She said, I just got this email from a guy that said, please don't. And so I didn't.
No, she didn't. She was one of, I believe it was 5 Republicans that voted against it in the Senate.
And I have some numbers here that I pulled off of a blog called The Briefing Room.
If you're driving now, take a moment and focus, and make sure you stay between the lines, because this is going to take a minute.
Yeah. So, the figures that I'm about to read actually came from 2015. So obviously this is before the 2017 gas tax hike, and it states that in 2015 the state gasoline tax generated $541.8 million. 2 cents, or $60.3 million of the state gas tax flows to the State Highway Road Construction and Improvement Fund. 1 penny, or $30.2 million, is allocated directly to the State Highway Fund, and another penny, $30.2 million, moves to the local distribution. The next $25 million collected in state gas tax flows to the special distribution account. The remaining revenue is divvied up between the motor vehicle highway account and the highway, road, and street fund. 75%, $297.1 million, flowing to the former, and 25%, $99.2 million, to the latter. So this breaks it down that pretty much every bit of our gas tax does go to the roads. And as far as my understanding goes, that is not how it's broken down in the new one, correct?
Well, roads can also be trails, pedestrian trails. There's a lot of different DOT type projects that you might not consider to be roads.
The actual gas tax did go to transportation funding, but the gasoline sales tax, which the gasoline use tax is what they call it, which is based on the price of gas. We're one of only 4 states that has a full sales tax on gasoline.
And that's a big fight that they had well, is that the state Senate didn't want to give that sales tax portion of the dollar to the roads.
Right.
They said, why the heck should we have... Is it Senator Kenley? Is it Senator Kenley who made the argument, who said that, the guy in the plumbing industry, if we charge plumbing pipe, it doesn't go back to his industry to pay for that, or
are we spending $3 billion a year on the plumbing industry as a state, or
on cigarettes, or whatever it is?
Yeah, that's a silly argument.
Yeah, but that was the argument that was made.
Yeah,
and I think one of the reasons why the bill wound up getting changed. Although I think he's retired, or is retired.
He has retired. Victoria Sparks, I believe, has taken over for him already.
Yeah, Rex Bell would like to point out that no libertarians voted for the gas tax hike.
Thank you, Rex. That is beautiful. But yeah, I mean, bottom line is we were hoping for something a little more friendly. And I think one of the things that scared me the most was the tolling portion and giving complete authority to the executive branch when it came to tolling. That concerns me to this day greatly. We saw this article that just came out literally like an hour and a half before the show.
Put an article out today that says we'll pull it up here and get the numbers right. Basically, I think over this, it's a feasibility study, and over the course of 30 years, I believe it's 30 years, the number is $53 billion that they're saying could be raised. I don't know the timeline, though. I think I read 30, but it says over 30 years. And they explored tolling each individual interstate. So I-65, which is the major north-south road in Indiana, would be $16 billion potential revenue. I-69, which is the road that it goes from the Michigan border to the north side of Indianapolis now, and it's almost built between Indianapolis and Bloomington. And then it continues from Bloomington to Evansville in the southwest part of the state, would be $11 billion a year. I-70, our big east-to-west road that runs through Henry County here, is $9 billion. I-64 down in your neck of the woods would be $8.5 billion. I-74, which is a smaller interstate, about $4 billion. I-94 up north, $3.7 billion. So they've got...
hey, why don't we just turn them all to toll roads? That would fix it, right?
Well, so that's the real libertarian argument or discussion that I wanted to have here. Is in theory, we talk about wanting consumption-based taxes. So we've got, obviously there's a whole lot of other taxes we want to go, get rid of. Income taxes we think are terrible. We think property taxes are the worst thing on earth. But when we talk about taxes, we talk about sales taxes and use taxes, and that's kind of
user fees is what we like to. The term we like to throw around as libertarians. We don't really like the word tax, It's just a dirty word. It's almost like a curse word.
That's why user fees was used during the last 2
years.
So
this was sold as user fees.
Taxes, right?
Yeah, I think we should just bleep it out. Every time someone says
you can
taxes,
go through and do the edit to add the bleeps, Mr. Davis. Good luck. But it's a philosophical discussion.
Right.
I think I want to have a little bit with you, because it's in some ways it's you choose when you're going to get taxed. You choose when you're going to pay for something. The number of miles you drive. Dakota and I are getting ready to drive down to Nashville, Tennessee, and we're going to pay a bunch of money in gas taxes that we wouldn't pay if we just stayed home this weekend.
Right.
So we're kind of choosing to make to go down that path. So that seems equitable.
It's a consumption-based tax, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So why not go entirely to tolls?
Well, I don't think we're going to have that discussion anytime soon in the state legislature. If we got to a point where we were talking about getting rid of all gasoline taxes and tolling major interstates, or however we want, I don't even know how complicated that would become once you start talking about state highways, local county roads, city roads, and I don't know how far you take that. But let's just say that we are only talking about federal interstates. Let's just only talk about federal interstates. Well, right now you're taxed 18 cents a gallon, federal gas tax, right? So are we willing to get rid of that in order to toll existing interstates? We get almost $1 billion a year in revenue from the federal government to maintain our interstate system. Are we willing to give that up and just go to tolls? I mean,
Yeah.
I tend to agree that tolls would probably be the best way, especially on an interstate system.
Sure.
But that's not.
But that doesn't help a county councilman what you guys have 800 miles of county roads to maintain.
We have one of
in Henry County.
For our size, we're one of the most.
Yeah.
I mean, I like comparison. Morgan County, they're almost double our population, and they still have a little bit less county road than we do. So, and yeah, we have those issues. And one thing I like what you said, and it's something I've been thinking about lately, is how much do you need?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because when you start talking about these issues, I think sometimes in an elected official's mind, when they start, if we just add 5 cents here, man, we could come up with $1 million. Or if we just do this, we could come up with $1 billion. And so it's kind of like you get stars in your eyes.
Right.
We can gain all this money.
Look how much
from
we can
the people.
achieve.
Yeah. So look what we can do for you.
It's the Darren Jacobs way of looking at government, really, isn't it?
But what it really boils down to is how much do you need?
Right.
So at the county level, real quick, one thing that was, with this whole plan at the state for roads and this grant that they'll give you, they basically bribed us with our own money.
Yeah.
They loaded a gun, put it in your hand, and said, "Pull the trigger if you need more money."
Yeah.
Right, because they forced you. Essentially, the only funding mechanism they gave you to deal with your roads was to increase your local wheel taxes, or to add.
And in the beginning of it all, it was you had to, if you had a current wheel tax, which we did do in Henry County, and we did at that time, you couldn't use that in the original writing. You couldn't use that. It had to be another tax on top of it. So we almost got into this position of being forced into coming up with this extra money to get as much match money as we could get. And we did that. And we got the match.
Yep.
Okay? So again, they bribed us with our own money. Well, so we increased that $15 per passenger vehicle. Okay? So now it's $40.
It was 25.
It was
25 vehicle, now we're at 40.
Now it's at 40. Then on top of that, with this new state law, now they get $15 more added to it.
Mm-hmm. $15
so
more
it goes up to $55.
A new licensing fee.
So it goes up to $55.
But
now at this point, though, here's what that money doesn't necessarily come back to Henry County. That $15 goes into the grant fund that Henry County can apply for.
You have a shot at
and maybe get back.
And that's been a big fight where the city of Newcastle here had applied for money and didn't get it, and there was this big. Council members pointing at the mayor, and this you get caught in the red tape of applying for your own money, and then you don't get it, and then everybody's mad at each other.
Yep.
So again, at some point though, I'm like, I think we have a great highway department, I really do, and there's some guys there that they're just as frustrated as some of the citizens, to be honest with you.
Yeah. We've talked. I think you and I have both had conversations with Joe Wiley, and you listen to him explain his road funding and what he has, and it's just as bad as listening to Dakota read a moment ago how everything goes. And poor Joe's got 4 different funds, and he can he can build this, he can buy his aggregate out of this account, and he can pay for his people out of this account, and he can do something else with insurance. And it's just it's a mess.
It's just
it's very difficult.
It's not a very efficient and effective system right now.
If you drive an electric car, you're not off the hook
doing
with this
what we
new bill
can.
either.
You know what it
no, you can't be a free rider, Dakota.
Yeah,
you know what it sounds like?
You have the $150 fee added if you have an electric car. So all these people that think they might be saving money by buying into Tesla.
Not now.
No. I just paid $400 to plate my truck last
Well, it's a
weekend.
very nice truck.
$400. I also had a custom license plate, but that was like $15.
If you're going to live high on the hog, you're going to pay it. You know, he lives in luxury. I mean, he already talked about his bathing etiquette. You know, so
let's just say I rented a car tonight because I was embarrassed of my own. How about that?
You rented a car?
Well, yeah. No, but I think when you were talking, what it sounds like is strings attached. Right.
Oh yeah.
And that isn't that what we hate about the federal government so much?
Right.
Is that we believe that states should be laboratories of democracy, yet they dictate everything that we should do from Washington D.C. as a state. They dictate so much of what we can do, and we're seeing more and more of that at the state level. And it's I'm not picking on Indiana. This is across the country. This is just naturally what happens. Yeah. You begin to see more and more power centralized at the state level, and less of that. Now, I will tell you what the state legislators will tell you about that is that county councilmen and city councilmen don't have the guts to pay for their own roads, so we're going to have to do it instead.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the argument.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some truth to that.
County councilmen can't even pass a budget without getting approved by the state. Right? Yeah. I mean, you just went through this cycle. I served on the Henry County Parks Board. We had about a $500,000 budget, and the Bureau of Government what's the DLGF, Department of Local Government Finance. Has to approve in every however state government is set up. County health departments and county parks absolutely get shredded every single time.
We have. I mean, I'm just throwing out a rough estimate. We probably have 70-80% say, and then we submit it. But then that other 20% say is pretty potent, because if they'll come back and say you got to cut this amount. Well, you have to cut that amount. Period.
Yeah, it's anyway.
And the park and health get hit hard. Yeah. So the park department and health department.
Going back to toll roads
and
that philosophical argument, I'm happy to have that at a policy level when we're willing to make major changes in the size of our government, the scope of our government, and the way that we fund roads in general. But if I were to be a betting man, I would bet that is never going to happen.
Instead, what we achieved was a tax cap, a tax increase on the one thing that
Isn't
might find palatable.
Frustrating?
Yeah.
Isn't that what's so frustrating though? Because the regular person, and all of those people, I won't say all, but most of them start out as just regular people wanting to do the right thing.
Right.
Yep. But you get involved in this environment, and you see the other side. Well, it starts changing the way you think, right? But the regular everyday person sees this as common sense. And you look at it, and like you said, I'm willing to maneuver here, but it's not going to happen. And I think that's where people lose hope, and that's where they lose faith and trust in the system itself.
Right. So much to where your high school civics teachers are telling people, hey,
don't
vote.
What? It's not worth
Don't
it.
even worry about voting.
Voting is an act of aggression.
It's painful.
Yeah. Microaggressions. You got to watch.
And it's like the one thing I wanted to mention too, not to go way off topic, but earlier you talking about following the federal government and the tax reform.
Right.
Okay. So take that for instance, and we had a congressional candidate in the barbershop today, and I like to get their opinion on this, and I want to hear what you guys think about it too. The tax plan, the tax reform. One, I think is going to help. I mean, you lower taxes, that helps the everyday person. I would like to see. They're starting to get away from the whole size of a postcard idea, right? You don't hear that talked about as much anymore.
I did. Kevin Brady.
Are they still talking about it?
He said that 90% of filers will be able to file on the tax card. What did he say? The postcard-like system is what he said, or something like that.
So they're still looking at that.
Yeah, because I hadn't heard it either for several weeks.
Right.
Once you fill all of your forms out, the 1040, the cover page looks like a postcard.
That is true.
Maybe you just folded it in half. I don't know.
But here's the issue that with that is the national debt.
Right.
So again, we're coming back, and I asked this congressional candidate about it, and the thing is, he come up with the right answer, but they're not going to do it. And the right answer is you have tax reform, but then you also cut your spending to go along with it. Yeah, because all you're doing right now,
you're exactly right,
is increasing the debt.
So I think that through this tax reform, if the debt is increased, I think it'll be a minor increase over 10 years, if it is. But I think we're going to see more revenue than what we would have seen had we not had tax cuts or tax reform.
Right.
But you're exactly right, though. Until we get to that's part of the discussion. Getting the economy going again.
You have to.
Yeah, getting the economy going again through tax reform,
right?
Which I like to use tax reform. We can get into this a little bit if you want to, as opposed to tax cuts. We need tax reform,
right?
Which changes the way our system works, not tax cuts.
And it changes the way we think about it,
right? And so that's the first step. The second step is the most painful step, and that is entitlement reform. You can call it whatever you want. I mean, but that is the only way to change the trajectory of our national debt is through entitlement reform.
You're listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. Jeremiah Morrell, Dakota Davis, Clay Morgan, and Justin Stevens of Americans for Prosperity. And we've kind of shifted over to talking about federal taxes, and the House Republicans have come out with their plan today for a new federal tax proposal. Of course, our guy, Gary Johnson, was in favor of the fair tax this last cycle, and which would deal with the entitlement reform you're talking about as well. But that's probably not...
Personally, that's what I would like to see.
Right.
Is more of like a fair tax.
Once again, getting back to consumption-based taxes, but no, that's kind of like rock and roll in 1950s.
It will never happen.
We're not quite ready for that yet. So
I mean,
we're
that's
try to live in the possible.
Thing, though. You sit back and you think, and you look at pages like the Fair Tax Facebook page, or you go to their website and you read about it, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. I want to help do something. And then you sit back and, like, I hate to say this, but you think about it. I mean, a person with common sense logic can step back, look at it, and really think and say, there's no way. Like, that's never going to happen in my lifetime.
For two reasons, I think. Number one is the unknown. We have no idea how that would really change behavior, right? I mean, we might have a little bit of an idea, but there would be some rocky times, right? And by the way, the Fair Tax book is like one of the quickest reads ever. It's a great book. But secondly is it does what we're talking about. If we have true tax reform, it does
the entitlement reform.
It does true tax reform, because here, bottom line is, the way our tax system is structured, it benefits people who are well connected,
absolutely,
and people who can pull the purse strings, of politicians. I mean, that's who it benefits, and it doesn't benefit people like us. I mean, it is stacked against us. So that's our theme has been unrig the economy. So getting rid of special deductions, special loopholes, and going back to Charles and David Koch, we have constantly been advocates of getting rid of things in the tax system that benefit the industries that Charles and David Koch are involved in. So it's something that needs to be done, that has to be done, and we have to make it fairer, flatter, simpler. We have to change the way because over the last 15 years, there's been so many adjustments to the tax code that have benefited the people who are up lobbying on Capitol Hill. That's who it benefits. It doesn't benefit the average person.
I even heard now President Trump before. I think he talked about this even before he ran in 2016 when he was considering it another time before that. He talked about these things. He talked about the loopholes and the gaps and he admitted, I use them because they're there. He said, but that is the problem with the system. And of course, he said if he was in there, he would do something about it. So I haven't dug into this whole tax reform. I'm catching the outer layers of it. Sounds like he's going to sign it if they can get it passed. So
well, I tried to study it on the way here after it was released. I had 5 phone calls, 1 radio interview, and then this. But I did get a fairly good grasp on it.
It's basically you going to from like 5 or 6 different rates to 3.
We have 7 rates right now. Yeah, it follows the framework that they had come out with a couple months ago, for the most part. It goes from 7 rates to they actually put 4 instead of 3. We were hoping for 3, but it's 12, 25, 35, and 39.6, which is the top rate.
You were hoping that 39 was going to go away?
39.6 would be, So, and then it doubles the standard deduction. So for someone who's getting ready to get married, Dakota, you will be able to to avoid paying income taxes on the
Right.
first $24,000, I think $400 of your income.
And you know what's crazy about all this? Like, and this is just a personal story. I guess you would call this the banter, but
I hope it's funny.
but no, like
Kind of reminds me of a
serious.
chicken.
the
Bantam.
before the election.
You're not allowed to have any banter in Spiceland. It's outlawed.
Yeah. Thanks, Darren. No, but before the election, it's me, my coworker, and my boss, and we're all sitting in the office, my office, and we're all talking about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, blah blah blah. But I'm not getting too much into it because every time I say, "Well, I'm going to vote for Gary Johnson," it's like, "Well, he doesn't even have a chance," like blah blah. Blah. So I just don't get into it at work. At not the right place or the right time. And so my boss starts talking, and he's a 63-year-old man and is like just sharp as a tack, okay? And he's like, I really think I came up with this tax plan. And he's like, and I wrote it all out. And he starts naming like different deduction amounts, and he's like, and I say that we don't tax people the first he's like the first $20,000 of their income if they're single, and then $30,000 if they're married. And then he just starts going on. And then I saw Trump's, and my boss says, and I'm going to send it to both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, because I think that whoever implements this is going to be the best job creator, and is going to have a booming economy. And I was like, oh, whatever. And then I start reading on Trump's tax reform, and I'm like, holy crap! Like,
It worked.
This is
He
Dave's
got the
taxes.
letter. Yeah, I mean, so even beyond that anywhere from between, if you're married filing jointly, anywhere between 24,400 and 90,000 is taxed at 12%. And then once you get above 90,000, I think it's up to 260,000, it's taxed at 25%. I mean, that would be it. It really would be middle class tax relief. Truly, they're going to try to frame it as a tax cut for the billionaires.
Yeah,
but
that's what I keep seeing is people who are like, Donald Trump's tax reform is going to do nothing but screw the middle class and just keep helping the rich. And I'm like,
no,
you don't understand. Like, you haven't read it. Like,
They've-
you don't
yeah.
know what you're talking about. So
They've
stop
kept the
talking
401k
about it.
in it, so you still get to deduct that from your
right.
taxable income.
Right.
I assume you still get to deduct out any Social Security you paid in, or Medicare or Medicaid.
mortgage interest deduction stays
is that
up
is that
to $500,000.
Is the mortgage interest deduction only on that doesn't reduce your taxable income though? That's where you have to choose the standard deduction
Right.
or the individual.
Right.
Yeah. So for
where,
most
where you
people,
itemize
almost
right.
anybody in Indiana, your property taxes and your I guess potentially on the interest deduction, but most of us aren't going to take that at
Right.
all. It's going to be a very small number of people that take that deduction.
And I think the reason why so many people are will say, well, this is just another plan that helps the rich, right? I get so tired of that. One, though, I think it's because they're conditioned to think that way, right? For so long, that's all we've heard, right? So we're conditioned as a nation to think that way.
True.
We're conditioned to think somebody's out to get us.
Right.
Somebody's trying to screw us over. That's just how we think now. And I think another part of it goes beyond political and just into the soul of man is a lot of people are just jealous.
Right.
They don't want people to have money. They don't want people to do better than them because they think if they are, then they're doing something wrong or they're taking it from them. You know what?
Right.
It doesn't bother me one single bit how rich Bill Gates is, Oprah Winfrey, the
Warren
Koch
Buffett,
brothers.
yeah.
I don't let them be rich.
They're
I'm
generally
not
creating jobs.
losing because they're winning.
No,
Right.
exactly.
I actually had a
Exactly.
conversation with a dude the other day, and he said, why does anyone need to be a billionaire? No one should be a billionaire. And I thought, why? Like,
Were you talking to Teddy Roosevelt?
No, I was like, you are incredibly selfish. Like, how self-righteous can you believe that you yourself are? And that's the problem that I have with socialism as an entire philosophy or viewpoint is that automatically if I tell someone of my age group or of opposite political thinking than me, I say, I'm a diehard capitalist, then automatically I am the person with low morals in their viewpoint. They believe that they have the moral high ground compared to me, when in reality, you are the one advocating for violence. You are the one advocating for a man with a gun to come to your house if you do not hand over 40% of your income.
Yeah,
and
capitalism has brought more people out of poverty.
Absolutely.
Than any political system.
And socialism has failed everywhere it's been implemented.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And
that's not
we
real
have to get to the
socialism.
generation that is coming up to help them understand that. I think that's a huge task. But I do think there's potential within that generation to talk about entitlement reform. You tell someone our age that we're not going to get Social Security when we're 67. I'd say we could probably plan, be all right.
I have no expectations of getting it.
We have to do something now. Very, very soon.
I had this discussion yesterday in the barbershop about the very thing, Social Security being one of the issues. I mean, we can't be afraid to deal with it. I just think they're so scared to touch it, because when it was brought up a few years ago, actually, wasn't it brought under Bush? It was brought up, and everybody ran for the hills.
Lockbox.
Ran for the hills. And now here we are, 10, 12 years later from when it was first brought up again. It's not any better. I mean, I agree
to a point. You can't just all of a sudden rip the carpet out of people.
No.
Out from under.
But that's what we'll have to do.
You can
later.
have a cut.
Well, the thing
if we don't do it soon.
If you don't do it,
we need to
exactly.
We need to. The plan needs to be implemented to where 2 decades from when it's implemented.
Yeah.
That it's gone.
Doing something
so
now,
people know.
Doing
people
something now would
know.
keep us from having to rip it off.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean, something has to be done,
because it's going to get ripped out from under us, and it's going to get ripped out as a surprise. People aren't going to know, and there's going to be millions of people who thought, well, I can depend on this.
Yeah.
I will have this to fall back on in my retirement and to live off of. And then all of a sudden you rip that out from someone, and yes, taking money out of my paycheck for Social Security when I could do it much better myself is wrong, but also ripping out the money from underneath someone that they thought they were going to get is wrong just as much.
Well, if you had the opportunity to take that 15%, it's 7.5% you put in, 7.5% that your employer puts in.
Unless you're self-employed.
Well, and then you have to do it yourself. You have to do the whole 15, but it's still 15%, Clay. Yeah, congratulations. Well, you chose a life of freedom.
That's right. And it is. It is.
But if you could actually do something with that money yourself, and you could invest it and go make my 401k is up 18% this year in this calendar year, 25% in the last 12 months. If I was able to take that 15% of my money that's stolen from me, and I could do what I want, and have that sitting there for 40 years.
Yeah.
I really wish we had the courage to make a grand bargain with everybody that's in Social Security and everybody that's in a public pension that we have, and make an offer and say, hey, cut our ties. Yeah. Here's the number. We bite the bullet. Obviously, we're gonna have to. You're gonna extend the national debt for a short period of time, but then you've stopped that.
It's going to be nothing,
and then you can
to
deal. And then you can move on.
But
you have to kill those obligations.
We have to tell people the facts that it's basically either no return or a negative rate of return for African Americans, because the life expectancy is much lower. They actually have a negative rate of return on Social Security. We have to help people understand that. Instead of the images of pushing grandma off the cliff and things like that in her wheelchair, we have to let people know the facts. And so I think tax reform is one great step towards getting things going again, getting the economy energized, making sure that we're on the right track, and unrigging the economy. And we've been working on this all year long, trying to push this. The week after the election, I was on Capitol Hill, lobbying people like Congressman Messer and these other guys, making sure that they understand this is a great opportunity. Don't waste it.
So put on your pundit's hat for me.
Okay. Oh gosh.
We've got I'm listing off the accomplishments of this Congress so far. I ran through the list just now.
You only need one hand?
Yeah.
half a hand, maybe?
So they haven't been able to get anything.
Some VA accountability reform. That's been good. That's positive. We got some work to go there.
Is this actually going to pass? Because the
tax reform?
This tax reform. Because the Republicans from New York State and other bluish Republican areas are saying, we tax the hell out of our people, and we want the property tax deductions, and
And right now, I'm not so worried about the House, but when it gets to the Senate,
right? Because you can only lose 2 or 3.
It's left up to.
Of course, most of the senators in those states are not Republicans.
The SALT deduction, state and local tax deduction, was included in this plan on property taxes, and I think up to $10,000 of your property taxes. I believe that's what was included. So I think that's their attempt to get some of those people from those states to buy in.
So you have
where it's not completely eliminating that. I think it has a chance. Now, I would have told you that we probably would have the greatest disappointment. We've been campaigning for 8 years against Obamacare, and very little has changed. Now, I do think we're making a little bit of progress there, but we did not repeal it, right? So
they haven't even seriously been trying to repeal it. They've just been trying to fix it.
So here's the thing. I think the mood on Capitol Hill. So I've been there, 4 or 5 times this year, and we've hosted several events on tax reform with Congressman Hollingsworth, Congressman Banks. We got one with Congresswoman Walorski here in 2 weeks up in Elkhart. I believe that the mood on Capitol Hill right now is that if they don't get this done,
you have accomplished nothing, and you have to face the voters in 12 months.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them. And I think they truly want to accomplish this. And I think there's enough agreement across the board where they can get something done. I think this plays out really a lot better, especially if they can control the argument that it's just for the wealthy. I think that that the arguments play out a lot better as far as this being a tax cut for the middle class. And unrigging the system. We've made tens of thousands of phone calls. Speaking, just talking about our efforts, we're very proud of that. We've hosted several events. We were the first non-DC event. We kicked off our tour on tax reform in DC, and then the first 2 events were here in Indiana back in August, and we've had several more since then. We engaged Dr. Schonsberg for kind of the economics or the economist perspective. And we've made tens of thousands of phone calls, mostly patching people into Senator Donnelly's office to try to encourage him. He comes to town with the president. He acts like he might be in favor of it. We think there's no reason why this has to be a partisan issue. This is an
Absolutely
issue.
Not.
It should not be a partisan issue.
It should not. It should
That's
not.
something we've said from the beginning. 100 senators should be able to vote for this.
Exactly.
Now, maybe the ones from Illinois and California and New York have a little bit more trouble with that, but people a senator from Indiana, regardless of political party, should be able to support this.
And that's one thing I was thinking is how do you look your constituents in the eye and say, no, that I don't want to lower your taxes. I don't want to help you out.
Well, he's going to say that it doesn't know anything about the national debt, Clay.
Maybe
he's probably
going to say it does nothing.
It
does nothing for the middle class. It only works for the rich.
But they can't. They cannot have a straight face argument and say that because the plan that we saw today, there's no doubt that it would provide relief to middle income families.
I'll tell you something that was kind of humorous. I went and saw Vice President Pence when he spoke over in Anderson, and Senator Donnelly was there, and he was close to the front there. And so Vice President, is giving his speech, tax reform, and going through it. And then he turns and he looks right at him, and he says, "And Joe, and we need you. We need your help." And everybody's like, "Ah!" And he's just smiling, and nodding. And
I think if he's smart, he does it.
I think we've arrived at final thoughts.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. We're getting there.
Have we? Man, I've been having so much fun.
This episode has gone.
How far is this?
I have no idea.
It's 8:30.
We're about
like
1:15
10 minutes.
Yeah, that's the way. We're just so much fun. Like Kevin Green was on the last episode, and he looked at me after and said, "I didn't expect to have fun." Well, no kidding, Kevin. We're fun people.
Wow. Sheesh. It's even in the monologue, right? We're going to have fun.
We promise.
We promise it's going to be a fun and easy listen.
You need to come to the barbershop and hang out a little bit and kind of spread the news. Yeah,
just drive 3 hours to get your hair cut.
Yeah, exactly. To be honest, I don't have much, so I just kind of cut it myself.
There you go.
Well,
I'm a fiscal conservative at heart.
It's Eric Schonsberg approved. So Justin, I guess anything final that you want to pitch or talk about or explain, but how people get in touch with you guys, follow you, so if they want to get involved with the organization, how do they do that?
Here's one thing. Here's my cell phone number, 812-549-9195. you can go to americansforprosperity.org, and if you want to learn more about us, obviously we're on Facebook and Twitter, and sign up for our newsletter at our website. We try to keep people updated on what we're doing. But what we're looking for, and maybe this is where some of your listeners come in, is we're looking for people across the state who want to be what we call torchbearers, and that is someone who's looking out for limited government policies across the state of Indiana. So we're looking for those people that are going to inform us, help us get involved. We've been involved in several local issues this year where we're engaging citizens on a local level to get involved in their county's city government.
Where are you guys on wind farms?
Can we talk about that next episode?
Sure. It's the biggest hot button issue in Henry County in the last 2 years.
It is.
Well, no, so basically,
I tell you what, if you could give us some wind farm thoughts and we promote that, dude, we're going to get some listens.
I think I'll stay away. We've already talked about gas tax. That's enough controversy for me for the night. But no, so we're more and more people that we can get active. We want to provide people with avenues to get active. We have a great system as far as technology. We have the greatest way of contacting other citizens and informing them about what's going on in our state and in our country. And we need more and more people to get involved in that and join us. So go to americansforprosperity.org and shoot us an email or reach out to me via cell phone.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on the show.
Absolutely.
Enjoyed it.
And we look forward to a return visit at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get canceled anytime soon. So, we're libertarians like this, so we're hanging on. Clay, MVP Barbershop is becoming like the little small town location in New Hampshire when you're running for president.
What happened to our advertisement that sat on the table?
Well, I just paid for one session, so I just
okay.
I took it down. I would gladly put it back up, though.
Should you? I mean, I feel like I spend a lot of my time looking this way during the episode. So maybe if we did like an MVP right on the side,
carve it into the hair.
We could do that.
Go.
We could do that. Yeah. But no, after today though, I did start thinking. I wonder what's going to happen around this little shop here politically.
You're going to need to start taking pictures and putting everybody up on the wall that's been in.
Yeah.
You've got,
there we go.
I got me and Messers.
It's going to be like Mayberry.
Yeah,
you do have you and Messer over there. That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, I got another picture. I'll probably post it on the Barbershop Facebook page. Yeah.
There we go. So does Americans for Prosperity doesn't endorse candidates, right?
Correct.
So you do issue advocacy, but you
Right.
don't get you won't be getting in the middle of saying, "Hey, we prefer Senator Young or not Senator Young, but Messer versus Rokita versus Braun."
Well,
and that
one
sort of
thing
deal.
is we very, very rarely get involved in primaries,
Right.
unless there is a clear problem. And then in the general election, I can just tell you from experience what we did last year. We made 2.3 million phone calls and knocked on 100,000 doors and sent 12 mailers statewide, educating people about the policies of Evan Bayh. So that's what we do. Now, we did specifically call for the defeat of Evan Bayh last year. So that's about as close as we get to endorsing a candidate.
It sounds like an endorsement of Lucy Brenton to me.
Well, maybe it was.
There were no mailers against Lucy.
But yeah, that's probably that's called express advocacy, where we are, expressly asking for the defeat of one particular person. We did that in last year's Senate race, and maybe we will be engaged in this year or next year's Senate race.
Perhaps depends upon how a Senate vote goes on tax reform.
Yeah.
Perhaps
we'll see.
Indeed. All right, so we got into your time, Clay. Anything else?
No problem.
Anything else big coming up?
No, not off the top of my head right now. I'm just sitting here feeling the honorable presence of Justin. So it's been an interesting conversation. So.
Tell my wife that.
Yeah, right.
Chelsea, if you're watching.
Right. But I really like this topic.
You're the one.
Because it's very pragmatic. You know what I mean? It takes real issues and it just says, hey, look, I get so, honestly, I'm fed up with, and we're not going to get away from it, but just me personally, I'm fed up with the people using the terms establishment, elites, and just throwing words around without any thought.
Right.
Are there established people? Yes. Are there people who feel they're elitist and above everyone else?
Sure.
Yes. But let's get down to where the rubber meets the road. Let's talk real issues, real policy, because as long as we keep butting heads like this in our nation, we're not going to get anything done.
Right.
And the people that lose are us.
Yeah.
We're the ones that lose as long as we can't come to the table and just talk real policy, get things done. And that's just the thing in elections. And I'll finish my final thought with this. In elections, we've gone from arguing policy or debating policy into mudslinging,
Personalities,
name-calling,
yep.
personality issues, personality conflicts. And I don't... that's why I guess I appreciate this episode so much, is because it just talks about the real issues.
Yep.
And how it impacts the everyday person.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Awesome. Dakota, final thoughts.
Just add me as a friend on Facebook, of course, and follow me on Twitter at @ATOCADSAVAD. It's Dakota Davis spelled backwards. And always like our Facebook page and always tell your friends. We have so much fun putting on this show for everybody, and I feel like tonight was a great episode. I did work on the new logo. We got a lot of good feedback from our Inner Circle Facebook group, and we're ready to publish that with I think at this point and make it our official new logo. I'm really excited about the direction that our show is heading. I think that we have made great strides, and like I said before, I'm super proud of what we've done. And I think that if you're in the inner circle group, and I don't know, obviously not everybody all of the 1,000 people that's going to listen to this, only like 10% are.
Well, if you jump on Boss Hog of Liberty on the Facebook page, you can see the Inner Circle group, and you can join. You can apply for membership,
Yes.
and there's a good chance we'll let you in.
But we always we consult that group because it's the people that have contributed to us. It's the people that we know are dedicated listeners and everything. So we always ask in that group before we start changing things. So I put the new logo in there, and then I also asked about format of the show. Like for the past 5 or 6 episodes we've done, we've been playing with just doing like funny banter for like 65% of the show, and then the other little bit we did discuss policy. Whereas before we would do a little bit of banter for the first few minutes, and then we would go to 2 national issues and then 2 local issues. And I asked what people like more, and it turns out a lot of people actually think that we're funny, Jeremiah.
It's a shock to all of us.
Yeah, I had no idea, except for Darren Jacobs, but whatever. And but also a lot of people like to listen to our show because they enjoy our opinions on things, which is also another surprise. So basically like we're not going to go anywhere with our banter. Like that is definitely staying, because without the banter, I don't think that I would want to do this show anymore. Like it would become.
I have no other way to do this show than to be myself.
Be way too much of like a job, and I already have one job that causes enough stress in my life. I don't need another one. So that's definitely staying. And along the lines of that, as I was asking for suggestions, Cade Coger, who I brought up in previous episodes.
Are we getting ready to go there now?
What?
With Cade Coger's suggestion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Okay.
Well, kind of. Basically, Cade said, what I think you guys need to do
is hilarious.
Yeah, he said you guys need to pick, like, your favorite Citizens of Henry County post. And, like, if you've been listening to this show for a while, then you know we always talk about Citizens of Henry County and that group and just the hilarity that goes on in it that people think is, like, serious and people take seriously. And he's like, you need to pick your favorite post and just, like, have people digest it and just talk about it on your show. So I put it in our senior host chat, like, what do you guys think about this? Everybody was on board. So what I'm going to ask is that if you are a member of Citizens of Henry County, and I know a lot of people who listen to us are, like my neighbor Zach, Cade, just a lot of people
frequent contributors to the
people who listen to that
Facebook
show
page.
are also members of that group, and I want you to start tagging me in stuff that you see, because I want to find it because I think it's going to be hilarious and I think it's going to be a great addition to the show.
You're going to be in so much trouble. You're going to be accused of being insensitive to people that have high electric bills, or their dog has run away, or somebody was rude to them at the Kroger parking lot.
All right, listen. People who are rude in the Kroger parking lot
didn't get their pothole fixed in time. You are going to be the most insensitive guy we've ever heard of.
I want to start that Facebook group, like what Mark Brim said, the disappointing photos of fast food in Newcastle, Indiana.
So many projects.
Because that's hilarious, and I'm in that group of Richmond, Indiana, and we have so much potential here in Newcastle.
All right, well. We look forward to that. You don't have a nomination this week, though, so you're
no, because I want the listeners to provide that.
You want them to do the legwork, and then you get to pick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. I'm going to use just a little bit of time. Had friends of mine, or in the Henry County 4-H and ag community, had a house fire this week.
Yes.
So, of course, the name is not something we. The fellow is a guy named Porkchop, who apparently he has a real name. It's Jerry Chernowski, and his wife is Zoe Ann Chernowski, who's the ag teacher at Blue River and leads FFA. And then Jerry, or Porkchop, as I know him, has been involved with Henry County 4-H for a number of years in the swine program. And their house was a total loss, and they're both recovering up at I think at Eskenazi with from what I've heard, some real burns. So I think that if folks have the heart to do it, there's an opportunity to make some donations to Blue River Valley. I think their PTO is leading it up.
Yeah.
So if you're interested or have heard that story or wanted to pitch in, just want to put that on people's minds and point to it and lift them up a little bit and think about them.
Yeah, and one of the because their superintendent sent out a phone call to everybody.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to do that, you like if you was donating it by check, you write it to Blue River Valley PTO. It has to specifically say because the school itself cannot take it.
Yeah, it's going through a booster organization, right?
Yeah, so Blue River Valley PTO. That's the one I remember. There was another one that you could write it to, but Blue River Valley PTO is the easiest one to remember. Yeah.
So anyway, they're just tremendous volunteers for the community. Pray for them, obviously, but. Just thinking about it, there's a big article. Travis Wyke wrote an article in the Courier-Times, so if you want more information, it's there. And just thinking about them. Really appreciate everybody listening to the show, as always. 28 episodes in. Next week we have Dear Leader scheduled. Chris Spangle is going to be here. I think it's a Wednesday episode because they're doing he works on Thursdays for their show as well, so we had to off schedule. So we'll do a Wednesday night with Chris here, and then the big We Are Libertarian show will be on Thursday of next week. Really do thank Justin for making the commitment to drive up here. Yeah. It's amazing. Really appreciate that. If you want to get in contact with me, Jeremiah at bosshogliberty.com, at Jeremiah Morrell on Twitter, or you can find me on the Facebook. We will see you all next week. Man, 1:30 exactly. Perfect.
Very good.
That was good. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you have some material with you by chance?